This content is for kids.
It's not for kids.
Isn't that what I said?
No, it's not for kids. If you are 13 years or younger, this is not for you. Do I have to kill somebody in order to actually make that point across?
No, man, you don't have to kill no one.
Wait a second.
No.
We return to our planet. The High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings, you're watching SeptumSin versus the world. I'm SeptumSin. This is Kotobukijake.
Hey.
And we're here to show you what, well, somebody else has. Technically it's mine, but we're going to actually do something unusual for once, which is we're going to go through as a collector's guide for a particular director. In this case, Evan Jacobs from Anhedenia Filmz. So I'm going to go through all of the movies that he has directed. I'm going to tell you if there is a physical. I'm going to show you the physical, tell you a little bit about the film, and then, tell you where to get it. Most of these can be gotten in the same place, so I'll just say similar sources. But most of them can be gotten by either talking directly to him, going to the Facebook for Anhedenia Filmz, and just contacting him. It's probably the cheapest way to get the majority of these.
Probably the only way to get a lot of them.
A good number of them are on SRS, and there are a select few on Amazon. I will tell you if there is exceptions, but mostly, if I don't say anything, you can probably get it on SRS or through him directly. So the very first thing I'm going to talk about is a film that's not on his IMDb list that he brought to my attention. It is Curse of Instinct, 108's Final Tour, which was him following around a punk band on their final tour. They're a Hare Krishna punk band. Now, if you take that name, and again, I'm going to tell you the name again so that you can find it, Curse of Instinct, 108's Final Tour, because it's on YouTube. I've only watched half of it. Pretty decent documentary. He says it's only ever been released on VHS physically. But there's good reason for it not being on the normal channels. It's actually not on his on-demand site, which, by the way, almost every single one of these is also on his on-demand, which has been in the link below for a while. So you can find that for $2. You can access pretty much everything after this point. If there's an exception, I will let you know. But everything else on this, for the most part, is on that site, on Vimeo. So you go to his Vimeo, pay him $2, and you will have access to almost everything else for a month, but not this particular one. So, well, we've gotten by all of the outliers. So now let's get into his IMDb profiler, which we start with his first film that we've got for him as a director, which is Walking Between the Raindrops. So this one is an interesting one as well, but it's a part of a trilogy of films. This is the actual DVD. Let's see here. Stanley is in love with Sarah. After spending some time together, Stanley thinks he's found the girl of his dreams. His emotions are sent into a tailspin when he finds out she already has a boyfriend. The universal question then becomes, does he tell her his feelings and risk rejection, or does he quietly assume the role of being the best man for last? Inspired by such seminal classics as Annie Hall and The Last American Virgin, this film, which was made for less than $700, proudly recalls the director's first films, including Scorsese's Who's That Knocking at My Door and John Cassavetes. You know how to say this.
Cassavetes?
Yeah, Shadows. So, as a first effort here, this is an amazing film. I mean, it kind of has elements of, yes, Annie Hall. I can definitely see the Woody Allen inspiration in this. Also, there's almost a Kevin Smith-like feel to it, too, as far as the acting is concerned. This is probably one of his best films in this genre. There are not a lot of them in this genre. Which I would say, like, kind of full-on romantic comedy type films. He's done very few that I would consider, like, full-on. And this one was a really good one. Out of these, and I'll say which ones I think that I could recommend to you, I would say this is one you would like. But if you don't like the older version, which does have some issues with sound quality, there is a remake called Walking Between the Raindrops Revisited. Now, this one's in color instead of the black and white, and I have not seen this one. This is actually one of the few I have not seen of his. I don't know why. I've had it for a while. It's just, I haven't. I think it's a different director. But, and of course, he was older at the time that this was done. But I do look forward to checking this out in the future to see how it compares to the original. Still, kind of cool. So definitely one that I would recommend. I'd recommend any of the first three, by the way.
Cool.
So the second film of his here is Safety in Numbers, done in '96. So, again, very much a kind of romantic comedy feel. Alan is on the sidelines of life. He's in love with his former next-door neighbor, Lori, who happens to be dating Isaac, a popular musician in Orange County on the Orange County music scene. In short, he's everything that Alan isn't, which suddenly drives Alan to deeply absorb himself into a screenplay writing. By doing this, he deals with life on his terms. Again, a really good film, really fun, a lot of good acting, great cast. I really do think that he's a great director when it comes to having other people under him. You don't see this in a lot of his films, but in these three you do. And I think this is also one that would be very well recommended. And these are all kind of more professionally done, if you can see the wrapping and all that. But we'll see how more of the modern ones are not too long from now. Alright. The next one is The Toll Collector, the last in what I call this trilogy. My least favorite of the three, but still fairly well done. Paul hasn't spoken to his best friends Scott in weeks. With everything else happening in his life, Paul hasn't been able to hang out as much as he used to. Scott is currently having a rough time getting over his last girlfriend. What do you do when you have no time for yourself? Sorry, no time for the most important person in your life? Yourself, yes. So, again, not a bad film, but out of those three, this is probably my least favorite of the three. But I still really liked it. Again, I would recommend this trilogy to you pretty easily. I don't know if there's anything that... I mean, what do you think of those types of films?
From how you described it, they can be very good.
So now we're moving on to something completely different. Watching a movie. So basically, this is one that I remember quite well. Some of them I don't need to go off of the back. But he's trying, basically, he's playing this guy who's trying to be an artsy director, and he's trying to pull an Andy Warhol. You know about the Andy Warhol film, like where he just leaves it in front of, I think it's the Empire State Building, and it just sits there for an hour and a half or something like that. So he's trying to just film himself while he's watching a movie. Mm-hmm. But of course, while he's watching a movie, he's trying to just film himself watching it, but he keeps getting interrupted constantly throughout this watching process. And that's part of the entertainment and the comedic value of this. This was an entertaining one. This is also the very first Anhedenia film I've ever watched. Believe it or not. And I did really enjoy it. I thought it was very funny, and I need to rewatch this sometime.
Good times.
Very minimalist, but, you know. Now we're getting into one that I know you have seen. Which is Schusterman Levine, A Boxing Fable. Now this is a version that is not available. I ended up getting this used on Amazon. It apparently came from a library.
That's what it looks like.
And it's just kind of cool to have a copy that had been circulating in a library at one point. So Schusterman Levine is this boxer, and it's done in the style of Woody Allen's Take the Money and Run, essentially. And it is hilarious. I love this film. I think it's one of my favorite boxing films that's as far as comedies are concerned. Not that there are a lot of those, but
yeah, I was going to say. There are some.
But it's still a really cool thing. Now, it is available. It's available on this version that was released. This also is a very good reflection of what, of what was there. I mean, I got a note that he wrote to me, and then this was written on the disc for my father, who was a really big boxing fan. Matter of fact, this was the last film that me and my father watched together before he died. And, again, I really liked how they did it. I thought it was quite funny. It's probably still my favorite Anhedenia film.
And you talk about availability. Notably, it is also one of the few you can get on Amazon. I bought a 2-movie. It was that and a movie called Dogs in Quicksand. Those two were paired together, and I still haven't watched the other film, but I did watch, because of course we did that one for Movies Galore, so
Yes.
check out that discussion.
One of a few we have discussed. So I'm actually very entertained by this concept. The art's different.
It is that.
And this one also is easily available through him or through SRS, I believe. So this is one of those that's there. Matter of fact, as I said, most of them are. So the difference, by the way, between these two, this one actually does have a documentary featurette at the end of it. Alright. Now, from what I've heard from the man himself, he decided to start changing gears after this point. Because it was just a lot of work getting casts together, wrangling everybody, and doing full scripting. So a lot of the rest of them are kind of like the by the cuff of your pants in a lot of ways. So we start that with Angela's Home Movie, which is, in my opinion, one of the first of what I call his monologuing films, which can be for better or for worse when it comes to these. Because essentially, the best way to describe that was, as I said, it's just him talking to the camera. And that's really the whole of it. This one is about a guy he's a professional gambler, and he's making this film for his daughter, so that she knows what he does. It has kind of a dark ending. Just prepare yourself. But it's probably one of the better of the monologuing type films. I didn't mind it. Matter of fact, like I said, this one's one of the ones I enjoy probably more than any of the others. So, yeah, if you want to get this, again, easy enough. Out of those films, I'd probably recommend this one at the highest level. And if you want me to break down any of the others a little bit more, I've covered every single one of these films on the Anhedenia project, which is on this channel. So, the next film of his is an updated film, but it's part of another trilogy so far of films, and that is 1985 to 1986. Now, essentially follows it's an animated feature, and yes, this is the style of the animation, so prepare yourself on that. Essentially, it's about this kid and his struggles of going from kind of the lower elementary school to middle school / high school life. And a lot of the changes in friends and family environments. I think out of the three, this one is probably the best written overall. It's very good. There is an extended edition that is available only on a streaming site. But with luck, in the future, there will actually be a physical copy of the extended edition. So, right now, this is it, but I think that there will be more options in the future, so to speak. I did enjoy it. You gotta get over the quality of the animation.
Yeah.
I know Jacob has seen one of the films in this style. He's seen the third one.
Well, I feel like I saw two. Now, which ones were they all together?
This one, Insect, and Cool Summer. I know you saw Cool Summer because you were preparing for the awards.
Saw Cool Summer. I'm pretty sure I saw this one as well. It was interesting.
But I really did like this one. Great music. Pretty cool stuff. Alright. Next one. Audience. After breaking up with his girlfriend, Chris heads out to Las Vegas to clear his head and get more in touch with himself. He doesn't make it past Barstow. So, again, interesting concept. Again, more of a monologuing type. This is basically, if you order them, this is how they usually come. If you're asking, well, a lot of these don't even look open. That's because I watch them mostly through the on-demand. And some of these I have not watched in a second round. This one is not that memorable for me. It's just simply a guy talking about what happened to him as he's driving. Really, that's about it.
Good deal.
So, I kind of feel like for some of these, you got to be more of a fan to really want to watch it. But we're going to get into more of that when I get into my least favorite of his films, which will be coming up. This one's kind of just more along the line of I've kind of forgotten about a lot of it, but still easily available. Now, going from more forgettable to very memorable, let's talk about Orange County Hardcore Scenester. Now, this one actually is a fairly professional-looking disc here, which makes sense because it is a very professionally done documentary about the Orange County hardcore punk scene back in the 90s. It's really good. If you have any interest in that scene at all, you could do yourself less a favor than to get a hold of this. It really does pop as a film. I've really enjoyed it. I've tried to get others to watch it, other people who are into punk. They haven't yet, but I will say this also has some of the most supplements I've seen. If you go to his YouTube channel, he's almost always supplementing this with more interviews, more talks. It is quite an impressive collection. Maybe there'll be like another release of this down the line that encapsulates all of these interviews together into something there. I can almost recommend this to you. You like kind of music scene stuff.
Yeah,
And this does a great job of
I'd be
doing it.
curious.
All right, now we're getting into, really, this is his first horror, which is a trilogy. And it can be gotten on Amazon, though SRS sells this. And that is the DV collection here. We've got DV 1, 2, and 3. DV stands for digital video. So the DV is one of my most... it's so weird. I'm more conflicted about this series than most. DV1 is about a guy who's just kind of like this killer who's recording himself doing what he likes to do, which is kill people. The biggest issue with DV is it's, especially the first two in that sense, is it's a monologuing film. It's basically the guy talking to the camera the whole time.
Right.
DV2 is about a guy who ended up picking up the camera that this dude was using and kind of getting possessed by it and becoming more and more insane as it goes. I would like to say, out of all of what I've watched in Evan Jacobs' work, DV2 has some of the best acting I have seen in the entirety of it. There is one scene that literally startles me every time I see it when I watch this film, and it is good. It is very well made. It is the best of the trilogy. Shoot, it's the best of all of them so far. And there are five DVs. But it's great because I can talk about this trilogy because they came out back to back. They all came out in 2013. Now the third one is about the family of the guy who was the killer and their struggle related to what happened. So again, fun films, well worth checking out. I think that if you like some interesting horror and you're okay with a lot of it being just one dude talking to the camera, yeah, you should definitely check this out.
Good to know.
All right. I didn't realize the Brodown was that old. But the Brodown is next. This is about a guy who... So when Frank... Okay, this is... I have to read this one. So when Frank thinks that his girlfriend is cheating on him, he loses it. Rather than confront her, he hatches a plan to catch her in the act. This involves roping his best friend John into his stalking plot. Frank wants to record a confrontation between his girlfriend and the dude she is allegedly cheating with. More to the point, Frank wants to beat the guy up on video. I'm going to make it look like he provoked me, Frank confidently tells John. John thinks the idea is terrible, but gets sucked into it nonetheless.
Yeah.
As fun as it sounds, it actually is as fun as it sounds. It is. It's them just basically talking in the car for most of it, and the ending is hilarious. I got a lot of good laughs out of this film. It was very enjoyable. I think that this one is one you could enjoy.
Cool.
So yeah, Evan Jacobs actually plays the friend, and of course the guy in front is the main guy in it. It really is just it is a fun film to watch. It is enjoyable.
Good times.
So Evan Jacobs goes back to the horror well with Water Damage. It has some Telltale Heart qualities here to it. After suffering a nervous breakdown due to OCD, a man returns to his normal life. He is okay for a while, but slowly his fears of water damage on his home start to surface again. Over the course of one harrowing night, the man is forced to confront the biggest fears. Ultimately, the scariest thought he may face is that he'll never be well. There are a number of these that kind of deal with mental health, and this one does a pretty good job. Evan Jacobs is pretty good at creating a slow burn when it comes to some of these. And Water Damage is one that, though I've only got snatches of memory from because it's been a while, since I've watched it, I will say that it is a very... It hit me pretty good. I do think that it is well worth your attention to watch. And I think it does do a good job of building that kind of madness as it goes out. Alright. So, we are moving on. I'm going to bring this up there. To Tim Cohen's Amazing Adventures in Cardboard Box Time Travel. There it is. That's quite a title, isn't it?
That's a fun title, yes.
And the film is actually quite fun. There's supposed to be a trilogy right now. There's only 2 films out in it. So this is the first one. And
the third one is Lost in Time, I guess.
Yeah, for now, anyway. So this guy is kind of obsessed over the Kennedy assassination. And he keeps telling his friends about he has figured out the science of time travel, that he keeps traveling back to the Kennedy assassination. And he's hoping to eventually prevent the assassination himself. And he's learned how to travel in time through a cardboard box. Now, as you can tell, this is a little bit off to his friends. The ending of this is quite fun. I really did like it. It had you on the edge. It kind of reminds me a little bit of K-Pax, where you're kind of wondering whether the guy's an alien or whether he's just crazy. And in a way, this is about the same way. Is you gotta wonder, is he really traveling back and forth, or is he just crazy? And usually your mind tends to go to the crazy part. But it's a fun film. I really enjoy it. And I would definitely recommend this to most who have... If you can deal with a lot of the basic films, this one will be a fun one for you. Alright. So, I have...
Forming?
Yes, The Forming is next. As you can see, not much here. This is another one of those haunted, things here. So a man is attacked by a dog as he runs in the park. After that, he finds himself dealing with a strange occurrence in his home. Everything he experiences seems to relate back to the fear he's experienced during the attack. As he is forced to confront these odd goings-on, we see him descend deeper and deeper into his own maddening psychosis. Or is he? There seems to be a theme of kind of madness in some of these films, and it is fascinating for me. The Forming does have kind of a haunted house type vibe to it, and it leaves you feeling claustrophobic and a little bit afraid as it goes on. Again, fairly decent horror film. Well worth your checking out.
Cool.
Nothing so far. I don't think there's anything in this that would be hard for you to watch, with the exception of one, and I'll talk about that one as we go. The rest of them, the most offensive thing to you would be you might be bored. So, speaking of that, let's talk about Boxing Time. So, Boxing Time, based on the hit Instagram video show, Boxing Time with Evan, viewers are taken behind the scenes to see what boxing promoter goes through in order to pull off Night at the Fights. Shot on location at a real boxing event in and around Orange and Los Angeles counties, Boxing Time is an in-depth look at a man's attempt to balance his treacherous worlds of entertainment and commerce. That sounds a lot more entertaining than it is, but that's basically what it is. And, you get to see him basically talk on the phone the whole time. And him going around to these various locations. It's kind of cool to see that. He uses this kind of location in multiple films. And it's alright. It's an alright film. I've definitely seen worse from Evan Jacobs when it comes to say that. We'll get to some of those very shortly, actually. Very, very shortly. So, still, decent enough. If you like boxing, and you really want to see some of the behind the scenes, and you want to do it cheaply, this is a good way to do it. Alright, now we're getting into one that might give you a little bit of issue. Fleas. This is about a man who is kind of, as a writer, he's kind of basically secluding himself in the country, but he keeps feeling like insects are biting him, and he keeps getting these thoughts till eventually he goes over the edge. I really liked Fleas. I really thought it was a great movie. It built a lot of suspense, and the ending kind of gets you that feeling at the end. Where you hear that sawing noise. Oh, my goodness. One that I think you could handle, but one that might push it a little bit. In the old days, I don't think you could handle it, but I think nowadays you could probably handle it just fine.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of blood in it, but there's a lot of indication of something going on. And they do a pretty good job of it. Again, we're seeing that theme of madness again as we go, and definitely it hits very well with the guy thinking that something's biting him, something's crawling on him, and ultimately having to do something very severe to get through his psychosis. Alright, one of my least favorite films of his is here. Salvo 1. After waking up in a one-room cabin, Eric Ludwig is confused about how he got here. With no recollection of the previous events, Eric does his best to try and piece together his recent past, as it soon becomes clear to Eric that he has been placed there for a reason. So, as a post-apocalyptic type film goes, this is horrible. I try to be nicer to it in my other review. This is my least favorite of his films. It really is him just sitting in a hotel room of some sort and talking to the camera for an hour or so. And the best thing I could say is that, like him, I was trying to get out of the room. So I felt like that was kind of there. I mean, out of all the films that we've done so far, I could definitely recommend them to somebody. This is the first one that I don't really recommend to anyone. Unless you are a really big fan. Me, I've got to try this one again eventually, because it can't be as bad as I remember it being. But
Famous last words.
so I do want to get it by, but this one was hard for me to watch. And I have three things that I dislike, make me dislike a film. One is boredom. Now, boredom is my biggest sin for filmmaking. Then I have to like at least something. I have to like some of the actors. I have to like something there. And then I can't remember the third one. But those two definitely are big. Now, I didn't mind the character, but definitely this one got me bored. Which is a sad thing. I would not recommend it to you.
Okay.
So watch it. Alright, so next we're kind of following a theme here for Tim Cohen 2. Now, I didn't like Salvo 1 at all, but Tim Cohen 2 I kind of half-liked. It's the sequel, of course, to the Tim Cohen's Time Travel,
Right.
which is an excellent film. I would highly recommend Tim Cohen's Amazing Adventures in Cardboard Box Time Travel. I would very much recommend it, and then saying it 5 times fast just to see if you can without being tongue-twisted. Now, Tim Cohen 2, however, I feel like maybe if the third movie in the series really hits it hard, I'd recommend this so that you have the trilogy and you have a bridge. Essentially, it follows the first film. I can't really say everything about it because it would ruin the ending of the first film, but it does follow along with that. There are issues I have with this kind of dragging quite a bit as they kind of just sit there and they talk about, hey, look at that thing. Look at that thing over there. And then, of course, not show us anything because they can't. But there are some legitimately funny parts, like at the beginning, where the one guy decides he's going to try and do time travel, so he puts his feet in a small cardboard box as I'm trying to mime it. And that to me just had me laughing quite a bit.
Yeah.
So it's one I want to see again, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off until the third film comes out. Then I'm just going to watch the trilogy back to back and then reevaluate my standing on this one. Because though I didn't care for it the first time around, it does not mean that I won't the second time around. So if you liked Tim Cohen's Amazing Adventures in Cardboard Box Time Travel, mouthful, you know, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to grab this one. And you never know. It might be something that impresses you. So let's move on. Alright, so next up is another horror film called The Reckoning. Now this is about a promoter in the 80s that believes he is being haunted by the ghosts in a video he is making. I really liked this one. I thought this one was really fun as a horror film. I liked the digital scrambling they have with kind of the picture of the boxer that he had offended, and I thought the ending was very creepy and worked out well. This is a good recommendation. It's good for your horror roots. And a little bit of that boxing promotion feel too. So it's sort of like a horror movie version of Boxing Time, I guess you could say. This one I could probably recommend to you. You're not a big horror movie fan, but I think you could do well enough with this.
Sounds interesting.
Alright, so now let's take a look at DV4, Electric Nightmare. I really like every other DV film. And I really need to watch DV1 and 3 again to see how I feel. But DV4 is kind of fun because apparently the kind of curse goes from the digital camera and moves over to somebody's electronic equipment. So it makes it sentient, and they plot the murder of the guy using them because they don't like the idea of being replaced. This one's very fun. It's very entertaining to watch, and it has a slightly haunting message to it, but it also is more comedic than the other three. So, out of the DV series, this is probably one of my favorites other than 2. 2 is really amazing, so. Alright. We get to the second of the 3 animated features, Insect. Now, you've got this family, this older brother and younger brother, and they're kind of finishing out school because their parents have died. And the idea is that, one of them finishes out school, then the other one moves in with relatives. And so the brothers are having to deal with the loss, but also this weird, mysterious nature with things and people are disappearing. And it turns to be something other than, well, what could be considered plausible means. This is a pretty cool feature. I love all 3 of the animated features. This one's really fun. I actually consider this in between of 1985 to 86 and Cool Summer. This one kind of tells its own story, but has a lot of good backbeats and good character backgrounds. I do enjoy it. Jake's bored by it. He's falling asleep. Alright, now one I've been told I should probably try to watch again.
Which one?
Is The Park.
Ah.
And this is one that I kind of had a mixed feeling of. Because I really liked it up until the end. I didn't like the ending. Where there was a lot of kind of cheaper CG effects that were thrown in, and I didn't feel it fit so well. But basically, these guys find this. You know how you've got these brick walls where it shows these little USB keys and stuff in them.
Sure.
So these guys find it and take some of the information off of it, and then they find they're being trailed, and they're kind of worried about it the whole time. It's very good and at building some feelings of kind of paranoia. And I felt like it did a good job with what it did.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the end kind of jumped the shark for me, like literally.
He did jump over a shark?
Might as well have. So there's no actual like description on the back of this, so that's what I gave you what I could remember. But like I said, I remember liking it except for that part, and again, maybe I just need to rewatch it again and see if it fits in for me. But otherwise, I've considered it a good film. So just understand that there's some cheap CG in it.
Cheap?
So, but check it out if you like some films that have that slight paranoia and then kind of throw you for a loop at the end.
Mm-hmm.
This is one to do. All right, now we're getting into some interesting territory here because I was directly involved in some of this. So we have ourselves How Many Times Can I Say I Love You, which is on Anhedenia Pack Volume 1, which has 3 films on it, and this is one of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a reason why we're throwing these 3 films on here, because it doesn't look like these films would sell very well individually. How Many Times Can I Say I Love You is a monologue film about a guy who has lost his girlfriend and is pleading with her to take him back over the phone for an hour. So, it's about as pleasant as it sounds. But it could be worse. I do need to rewatch this at a point. I've watched this about... No, I don't need to rewatch this. I've watched this about 5 times when I did this thing. But, so... No, I don't really need to rewatch it again. But it is one of those films that I guess if you really like it, you really will like it. I did not. But on the bright side, though this is printed in limited numbers, it is still available on SRS's site. I guess it shows you the strength of the 3 films on there. But it's not all bad, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. So, I mean, they're worse. It's a pretty good value for 3 films. And an extra.
Mm-hmm. Did you mention them all, or were you...
I'm going to come back to them.
Yeah.
Once I get to the end. That's why I'm setting this one aside for the time being. All right, now we're getting into...
Another one I've seen.
One that he's seen, which is Death Toilet. This is the Death Toilet anthology, but you can get them individually if you want to buy from Evan Jacobs. You want to go on SRS, you can get the trilogy set here on Blu-ray. This is what got me to know about him in the first place, Death Toilet. So you got this guy who's a Vietnam vet, and
because naturally this guy sees something called Death Toilet, and that is required viewing.
It is. It's definitely required viewing. So essentially, he goes to this house that his brother was at, and his brother got killed by the toilet.
Yes.
And
as you do,
cursed toilet as it is, and so he's going to the house to try and figure out what happened to his brother. All this, put the pieces together. So he and Father Dingleberry, I believe is the other guy there, do their best to do battle with a demonic toilet. And it is as it is.
Yes.
This is a series that I'm kind of conflicted over because it is very absurd, and it does come across as absurd as it sounds, but it is also very low budget. So
Yes.
you gotta be prepared for that. But if
Yes.
you're prepared for how low budget it is, it's actually quite fun to watch.
You were talking before about really, really wonky CG. That's definitely a thing there.
They definitely did that. I thought that the battle with the death toilet is the best, and I'll move past that. Well, we'll get to that later.
Yes.
But the first one we're just covering right now. So, the next film he did is a
Yes,
film.
because there is more than one death toll.
Oh yes. So this one here is a thing called The Riverbed. Again, what I'm conflicted over, it's not because I dislike the film. It's because it's a horror film, but I'm not scared by it at all. I don't even feel remotely. Essentially, it's about this dude who is like, "Yep, I'm an upper middle class dude, so I am going to record the plight of the poor." And he goes by the riverbed to see about these homeless individuals, and he ends up finding out about this kind of curse that befalls a lot of them on the riverbed, as he himself confronts and ends up falling victim to this similar curse. I can't really say exactly what happens because it kind of ruins the story, but I had a hard time getting into this as a straight horror film. But if you watch it as sort of like a horror film / horror comedy, it's really good. And I thought that it had a lot to say as far as just commentary, social commentary. So it's worth watching. I've watched it a couple of times. It's worth it. Again, check out my review as a cat's tail goes in front of my
Hey, Rosie.
thing there. So we're back with Death Toilet again.
Yes.
Death Toilet number 2.
Yes. Great title.
Father Marcus needs help. The help of Brett Baxter, as toilets around the country are becoming demonically possessed. So, of course, this whole thing of demonic toilets is spreading. So they must confront it. And it's one heck of a final battle. Lots of explosions and stuff like that. So, you know, as far as Death Toilet movies go, if you enjoyed the first one, it's more of the same. And it might be worth checking out. So one that I'm still not sure about, and I need to kind of rewatch, is Don't Get Out. Now, I kind of like the cover of this, though. I like that cover. Do you think? Pretty cool cover. I like that. Sure. Yeah. Working too hard can really kill you. Jess, a commodities broker, is finishing up a long day of trading. He just wants to go home and spend the evening with his girlfriend. His plan gets thwarted when he starts seeing and hearing some very strange things around the office. From there, things go from the macabre to the grotesque as Jess finds himself in a fight for his life to escape his place of business. I'm conflicted on this because I didn't really like it when I watched it. There's a lot of, again, that CG that's thrown in there, like dancing skeletons and stuff, and I think I really need to watch it again. That's the whole of it. Because I want to like this one. But because I've liked a lot of other ones that were similar in the vein, but I didn't like this one, and I need to watch it again to check it out. Because other people said they liked it. So maybe I just need to watch it again, and it just isn't hitting me the right way. So, you know, don't take my word for it on this one. Jacob will watch it and tell you what he thinks and about
Yes.
it. So go watch it.
Don't take our word for it.
All right.
So I guess you'll be digging out one of those others for the next one, huh? Oh, and Rosie just moved our camera.
Yep.
She's trying so hard to be helpful tonight.
She is. So the next one in this trilogy, it's on here, on this Anhedenia collection here, is Riding the Rail. Now, I would like to say Riding the Rail is a lot better than How Many Times Can I Say I Love You, but it's not. It's about two people riding in a car.
Okay.
I mean, actually, no, different one. I'm thinking of a different one.
Yeah.
After losing his mother's tragic set of circumstances, a man takes revenge on the doctor that he feels is responsible. It's about a man sitting in a car. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
And he's contemplating his revenge. And I wanted to like this one more. I did. I wanted to like it more on there. It's the center one here.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I didn't really care for it. It was slow for me. But I've said this before. A lot of those that are just like this him talking, they're very hit or miss for me, and this was kind of a miss. But if you've been watching some of his films and you like some of those, like if you're a big fan of Angela's Home Movies, or if you really liked How Many Times I Can Say I Love You, Gotta Say I Love You, you probably like Riding the Rail just fine. But again, not my favorite there. I do like the poster, kind of him sitting there. I kind of like the mask he kind of wears at the end. I think that's pretty cool. So there's a lot of interesting parts to it, and maybe I just need to watch it a fourth or fifth time to get it in me, as to speak. All right. Last time I bring this up, Death Toilet 3. Not the last time I bring Death Toilet up, but the last time I bring this up. So, Brett Baxter travels the globe, ridding the world of every demonic toilet he finds. His work done, he retires, but the quiet existence is disrupted when a toilet from his past returns and is more diabolical than ever. There's like a beach scene at the end of this that I don't know why I find it hilarious. I do. Again, it's more of the same. It's a little bit more outlandish than the other two, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I do think that it's great that the trilogy stops here, because after this, the movies seem to be going in an entirely different direction anyway. So I do kind of feel like it's good as it is here.
It's also interesting that both your edition and mine have it listed as Death Toilet 3 Duty Calls.
Yes.
But you have it listed here as Death Toilet 3 Call of Duty. And I'm pretty sure that's the IMDb listing, too.
It is. That's the IMDb list you have right here.
So it is interesting that you have two different titles for this film.
But they sometimes do have that way,
Yeah.
the way that it works there. I don't have the original disc, so I can't tell you.
Did you get him to confirm for you what the proper title is?
I didn't on that one.
I will say the original trilogy of Death Toilet films, they were all interesting-ish, and they were all watchable. I wasn't really blown away by any of the first three. But, you know, I saw them.
You did see them.
I did.
You did see them.
And I saw the next one on your list, too.
Cool Summer, which is kind of... again, Cool Summer kind of reminds me of something that could go along with the 1984-1985. It takes place right before that with the same group of characters.
Right.
Again, the third of the animated ones, but not the last by any means. And it's about their last summer together between then and going to middle school. So they're kind of like
between elementary and middle school,
Yeah.
or middle and high? Okay.
So they're just sitting there and they want to hang out and do this, but there's this there's this thing going around about this killer that seems to be stalking the streets, and they meet this mysterious stranger. It takes them to places that are not so neat.
Yep. It's a road trip movie.
It's pretty interesting. I actually like this one a lot. Evan Jacobs won for Best Director for this film for the Versus Awards.
Yes, the inaugural Versus Awards. We actually had an acceptance speech. So
We did.
It'd be nice if we have more.
And I did. I really did enjoy this one. I thought it was fun. And I will be doing a psychoanalysis on this once I get back to doing psychoanalysis again.
Okay.
So that's my next target for that. So it's going to be fun to do that.
Okay.
All right. Now, where is that one? There we go. Oh wait, no, this was right.
I was going to say,
I was
what
right.
are you doing?
I was right. All right. So we got DV5, Cord Cutter Hell.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I kind of like every other DV movie. I kind of like the even ones, not as much the odd ones. But you got this dude who is a he's talking about cord cutting, and he's on like he's got his like YouTube channel or whatnot, and he ends up getting a hold of kind of this cursed camera that gains a lot of the stuff, I guess, back from the fourth movie. I feel like this is a setup. I feel like everything here is meant to set you up for the sixth film. So I'm not going to say I totally dislike this film. I just feel like it's incomplete. I feel like this is just here to kind of set up the bridge between between 4 and 6. Mm-hmm. Once we get to 6, I think all of this will pay off, and it'll be kind of cool. So I'll probably watch this again right before 6 comes out. I do look forward to DV6. I think that it's going to go some pretty cool places like the Cyberverse and so on. So I think it'll be worth kind of checking out.
It's also probably worth noting, you started off talking about release dates here. You kind of left off it at some point.
Yeah, this is in the
But
2020s.
He has basically, Mr. Jacobs has almost a work ethic that would put Woody Allen to shame.
Yes.
You see, he apparently had 20 films. He had 20 films. No, we're not there yet. But he had 3 films in 2020, and this DV5 is the first of 4 for 2021.
Yeah.
And then it just goes from there. So it's like it's a lot of movies for 1 year. But
there is, and 2022 was a very busy year for him.
yes.
So, one that's interesting, and we'll talk about it again as we go.
Mm-hmm.
If I can. Okay, there, and let's slowly slide
there
that.
you go.
There it is. So, this is a film called Shut Up and Get in the Car. Now, this is about a road trip that 2 brothers are making to their family's house for Thanksgiving. And they've been estranged, and they are kind of hashing it out on the ride. Evan Jacobs' character in this, if he was my brother, I would want to slap him a lot as it goes. Because his character is very annoying, and he is perpetually offended by everything there. And it makes me feel sad for his brother that's in the car with him as he's going over, who's just trying to do. I'm not saying that his brother is entirely innocent in this, but yeah. It does have some interesting intenseness that comes with it, and it is a pretty decent conversation piece. I've seen many worse in the collection, and I'm surprised this got its own release, but it was worth checking out. I did enjoy it, and I will watch it again, most definitely. Cool. All right, well, we couldn't get away from this series for too terribly long now, could we? As we have Death Toilet 4, Brown Snakes on a Plane.
Which is a contender for last year's Versus Award.
Yes, for the cover.
Yes.
And I really love the potty mouth character's costume. You don't get to see much of him there. It's essentially our Death Toilet peoples get stuck on a plane because they're going to see the Pope. But a demonic toilet is there to try and get over to the Vatican to assassinate the Pope. So they need to, take it out, as you do.
Yeah.
And I did enjoy this. This is the most ambitious of the Death Toilet movies.
And it is by far the most entertaining that I've seen. I actually found this one quite amusing.
I want to say that the Death Toilet movies do get better. Each one gets better as it goes. I'm very much looking forward to Death Toilet 5: Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. Which does have potty mouth in it.
Nice.
And Amityville Death Toilet, which is a separate, I guess in the same universe, but separate movie. So we'll talk more about upcoming projects in a moment. But yes, this is one that I enjoyed. Out of the 4 films so far out, this is definitely my favorite. It's just fun the whole way through. Alright, so this next one is supposedly limited. I don't think there are any more, but he might make more. Is Into the Studio with Farside. So Farside is a punk band. I actually have the album that they recorded during this, and he's just doing a kind of fly-on-the-wall recording as they make their final album. Basically, he's there as they record their final album together. And it's kind of cool. You get to see the whole recording process for a small punk band. This one's a little bit more of a... it goes a little bit further. Now, this is on a When Value disc, you see, instead. But has, some extra stuff on here. More than your typical stuff that came with it. Because this was very, like... This was definitely very rare at the time. So it had a lot of cool stuff that came with it. I mean, it's kind of cool there. So, nice. I like that.
Yeah.
So, some fun stuff. If you're really into the scene and you really want to see how stuff is made, it kind of works. I mean, it's not my favorite of his films, but I do see the point of it. I kind of like the cover. It's kind of a VHS cover type thing.
Yeah.
I do think this is a pretty cool one.
Feel.
And I do think that it's worth a check out if you haven't. So... And that was the end of 2021.
Yep.
So everything else was last year. Everything else here in the pile could technically be on the Versus Awards.
Oh, dear.
So, we've got the one that you would have the least... This is the only film in his collection that I feel like you would have trouble watching.
You've said that this is not a pleasant one.
Fleas 2, Home Remedies. Essentially, a guy ends up having an ingrown toenail and using various home remedies to try and treat this ingrown toenail. And it's very... I have a lot of respect for this film, but I have a hard time watching it myself. I don't know how they managed to make such minimalist special effects feel so cringy and disturbing. But they do. I hand it to them on this. It's just, even thinking about it gives me a little bit of a shiver.
Lovely.
So that is the whole of this, essentially. And I've been there sometimes where you've got this person who you tell them, go to the ER, go to a doctor, don't do this to yourself.
Yeah.
And, oh my gosh, it's just,
I recently had to deal with ingrown toenail. It's lovely.
Yeah, don't even think about doing the stuff that this guy is doing. So maybe you should watch this so you can figure it out. But I do feel like this one is... I don't think you would do too well with this one.
Lovely.
Alright, so we're moving on to one that is really good. Haymaker. Now, note when I said I'm kind of very, very... I'm usually okay and very against a lot of the monologuing type films that he does. But this is one that I consider one of the exceptions to the rule, which is Haymaker, where you've got a boxing promoter who is going around, and you see the same basic background from Boxing Time to How Many Times Can I Say I Love You, and the other one.
Sister and Levine?
No, that was a different thing entirely. But this one. But apparently this person has planted a bomb and plans on blowing up the whole stadium during a big event match if this guy doesn't apologize for what he's done. But the thing is, the guy doesn't know what he's done to offend the person, and they're not telling him. It was very intense. I really did like how they did this with minimal stuff from other actors. He manages to put you on edge and in suspense. So I really do hold this one up as a good film. It's well worth your time to check it out for the low price. I mean, like I say, $2 gets you access to all the films. Can't do worse than that. All right. The last on this, taking a COVID test. So, what do you think taking a COVID test would be about?
It's obviously about government conspiracies, man.
It's essentially taking a COVID test.
Yes.
It is an hour or so of him waiting in line, talking about his expectations, talking about his fears and his thoughts as he's taking it. And to tell you the truth, out of the 3 on here, this is probably my favorite of the 3.
Yeah.
Because we've kind of been there in 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all had... The early COVID testing and stuff was not easy to get through. And if you were a government employee or something like that, you had to wait in long lines, you had to figure it out. I went through a very similar experience, mainly for the first vaccine. But for testing, it used to be like that. You used to have to do that. And I remember that sort of thing where you lined up in the cars and you just had to wait. And that was crazy. So it really does kind of capture that feel of the time. So I will say it's the best out of the 3. I'm not going to say it's a great film, but it was a decent film. And if you ever want to show somebody what that kind of thing is like, what would go through somebody's head, it's a pretty good way of doing it. Now, there is a short film that is added to this called Taking a Colonoscopy. Which is also exactly as it is.
Nice.
So, and also about as entertaining, to tell you the truth. A little bit more, actually. So, you know.
As getting a colonoscopy?
Yeah, I'm sure. But no, a little bit less entertaining than that, I guess. But as far as that goes, that's the 3 on here, which is How Many Times Can I Say I Love You, Riding the Rail, and Taking a COVID Test. They are not his worst films, but they're not his best films by far. Still, if you want to collect all of his stuff, I would definitely get this. I don't expect that there's going to be another run of these discs, and there's not a ton of these that have been printed, so I would definitely grab this if you want to get a complete Evan Jacobs collection. All right. So we're going to be talking about a couple that are not on physical. Yet.
Yeah.
See, me, I am for getting a complete collection. So I would like to get these on physical. One of them is Give My Regards to O'Hare. So Give My Regards to O'Hare is about a guy who packs up and leaves so he can move in with his girl, and then she breaks up with him once he arrives. It's got a great opening.
Yeah.
But the rest of the film was kind of a lot like Angela's Home Movie. How Many Times Can I Say I Love You? It's very similar to that. Of them kind of pleading on the phone for the rest of it. Started out good. So not one I would definitely recommend, but one that is worth your time if you really enjoyed How Many Times Can I Say I Love You, you'll enjoy this one just fine.
Okay.
If you didn't, you will not like this one. The sequel to Shut Up and Get in the Car, Shut Up and Get Back in the Car, when we talk about the return drive after Thanksgiving. I kind of like to see this in a double feature, maybe. It would be kind of cool to have them as a double feature. I didn't think this one was any different than the first one. It's definitely a decent enough film. I didn't mind it. I thought it was okay. And again, I think the chemistry between the two is good. Again, it as much as they seem to have resolved in the first film, it looks like they decided to take it all back up again in the second film. Again, I wanted to slap Evan Jacobs' character. But I think that they did a decent enough job of acting it through. It was a fun enough film.
Yeah. Good deal.
So one that we covered recently on Schlockaholics, which Evan Jacobs guested on, so check it out on that channel, is the Cojones virus. Let's see. Out of 2022, I want to say this is my second favorite of his, because I really liked Haymaker. But this one is comedically a hilarious film. It is.
Sounds fun.
So essentially it's about this guy who's going to close a deal. He's driving across America to do it, and he gets bitten by this bug. It gives him the Cojones virus, which has his, cojones grow very large and sentient. They even drive for him a little bit. I cannot express how hilarious this guy is in this film, and how fun it is. We all had fun with it. Both Mo and Cody had their own packs of Big League Chew, and they had this thing going. I was very impressed by it. I think this is probably one of my favorites of the year, and one I think you could actually get a kick out of and enjoy.
Sounds like it.
And if things go the way they are with nominating peoples, because we're trying to make it so everybody has enough to fill out the full nominating sheet, it might still be up for Best Low Budget Feature.
Well, yeah, right now you're the only one that has a chance.
So, I think that was a fun one, actually. Now, I think that we could do an Anhedenia Films Volume 2, because we've got 3 films on here. Give my regards to Go O'Hare, Shut Up and Get Back in the Car, and Killer. Killer lowercase with a period at the end. A contract killer records himself before going to work. I had to look that up because I didn't remember much of it. It was okay. It was just basically him filming himself in his car talking about how he's going to go and kill this person, and how he's going to do it, and how awesome he is at it, and we find out, okay, maybe he's not as competent as he says as we get to the end. So, it was okay. It was a decent enough.
Good times.
I think that trilogy would do better than the other trilogy set, though there's also a part of me that wants to say, re-release Shut Up and Get in the Car and Get Back in the Car as a double, and then wait for another film that's kind of like mid-performance, and then have those 3 together in a volume 2. But that's just my thoughts on it.
Well, he'll probably have plenty sooner than later.
Last film of 2022 that he released was Look Up Now. I think many of us know what he's talking about, but there is a film, for those of you who don't, called Don't Look Up, which is about a meteor hitting the Earth. Look Up Now is, apparently he's just driving to work and he finds out, it's like, oh yeah, the meteor's going to hit the Earth today on the news. And he's like, what the heck? Why is nobody caring? And he talks about that for the whole thing. And then eventually, of course, he gets to his destination and the thing comes and kills everybody.
Good times.
You know, it's an okay film. Not the worst film I've seen, not the best film I've seen, but an okay film. Enough. I mean, there are definitely many other good ones there. So I've talked about the good and the bad of the collection, and I will say that in this account, I do feel like we're talking about 45 actually that we've talked about, but 44 that are on IMDb of his films. And out of those 44, the majority are actually good. There's only a handful that I was like, ugh. There's only one that I actually say I almost hate. And that's impressive, in my opinion. For somebody to put out that much content, and me to go at least, most of them are at least at, this is okay, this is good, rating. That's pretty impressive. So if you're a micro-budget fan, I think you could do worse. I think what you could do...
It will take what's the word I'm looking for? An appreciation for that style of filmmaking, though.
Yes.
Don't be one that's looking for high quality, snooty stuff like I like.
Micro budget. This is a micro budget filmmaking, and so I would say out of things going on, you could definitely do worse with some of these.
Oh yeah.
I'd say if you have an interest in Evan Jacobs, go to his Vimeo page linked below and clonk down $2. For $2, you get a full month that you can view any one of the ones we've talked about, except for one, and that one is on YouTube. So,
and given what's going on right now with the stupid assholes at Warner's, it would be a far better use of your time and money than signing up for HBO Max.
So to me, I would say go for it. Put down your $2. Just check it out. If any of these films showed interest, if you had at least 2 of these that show an interest, $2 right there, you have easily gotten your money's worth. And then if you really like what you see, you now know how to get the physicals. I don't know many
I'd buy
people...
that for $1.
Exactly, but I don't know many people who would actually go to getting like all of them like me. I'm just a fan of the channel. I really think that it's rare that you meet a director that's pretty honest and upfront like he is. So I'm always willing to give anything a chance. And like I say, I like most of the films, and some of them are really like... I mean, Cojones Virus is up there with some of my favorite films of the year.
And while I may be less familiar and haven't drank the Kool-Aid, as it were, like I said, mostly what I saw, I was at least entertained, or at least I appreciated the effort. As far as the make your own damn movie ethos that we and our friends of the channel tend to like, this guy definitely does that. And like I said, he actually showed up for our stupid little awards program to accept an award and to present. And I've talked with him a couple of times, and he seems like a cool guy, and I'd be happy to say, yeah, give him a shot. Give him a look. Just be aware that some of these will. Well, the lack of budget will show on most of them.
Yes.
And some of there is sort of a dry sensibility to some of them.
I do think that the worst of them really does come across as that whole mentality of anything can be a film.
Yeah.
I've got a camera, I've got some time, let's film this.
Exactly, yeah.
But even then, sometimes that sort of thing did produce some fun stuff.
Sometimes.
So it's hard to say. Like Angela's Home Movie was actually pretty good, and that was one of the first ones he did in that style. So, So let's talk about what's upcoming for him. Amityville Death Toilet has already got a pre-order through SRS. Of course, we've talked about some of the films that aren't really listed yet, like Death Toilet 5, Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. That one's still being filmed. You've got Mansplained, which is right now on Indiegogo, gathering funds. It's his very first crowdfunded film. I know I put myself up to get a movie copy and a kind of get a guest role on it. And then I've got then of course there's Sean's Senior Year, which it kind of is sad because it was my top pick for documentary in 2023. 2022 for the Versus Awards, but he's pushed the release to 2023. And I do think that when it comes out, if you really like a good documentary, I think you will like this film.
Cool.
I think it is one of his best. So with that being said, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, click that like button, hit that subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
All right.